Here we go. Family story hour. Let's see, what can I tell you about? Okay, I'm going to tell you about a long time ago. Real young De3's family. I'd say beginning of 4th grade. Standing in line. I went to school at, first of all, I went to school at this school on 82nd Street between 1st and 2nd. It's a public school called, I think it's PS 190. I went to school there with my friend Tom Elliott and Meth. I remember he was in like 5th grade. I skipped my first day of school with him. And I hope he's okay. You know, he should be a few years older than me. He's out in Hawaii. But anyway, back to what happened at this particular incident I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm standing in line, and there's this girl named Sarah. Right, blonde. Right? She likes me. I like her. There's another kid. His name is Carl. He's a black kid. One of the only black kids. There's only like 2 or 3 black kids in my class. There's like 2 or 3 black kids and 1 Spanish kid in my class. You know, I grew up in a white neighborhood. Back then, it was, you know, it was, you know, people were integrated, but it wasn't. There was still a lot of segregation going on. You know, not, you know, not officially, but you know what I mean, like under the table type shit. And so this black kid Carl liked this girl, and too. So we're standing in line, waiting on the stairs to come up from the lunchroom from eating lunch. So I get to kiss Sarah. Sarah's standing in front of me, so I kiss her, and Carl's standing behind me. Carl didn't like that. So Carl, when I turned around, he smiles at me, and he punches me in the face. For what reason? You know, I guess it's because he was jealous, and he liked Sarah too, or something like that. I don't know, I'm not sure. This is the beginning of 4th grade, man. I'm like, I don't know, 9 years old or something like that, 10 years old. And that was my first ever kiss, you know? And this is where everything started, you know, as far as me being, like, having a fucked up head, you know, being crazy, winded up with, you know, different psychological problems and shit like that. So he punches me and he takes off. I start crying, I chase after him. So we run around the school, and we're running around the school. We're running past teachers, and teachers, you know, are like, hey, what are you doing? Stop. And I run right by him, I scream, fuck you. You know, I'm cursing at the teachers at this point because, you know, my parents used to curse a lot in home, so I knew curse words. You know, and that's basically, you know, I was brought up in a household that was yelling and screaming and cursing and shit. And, you know, if you did the wrong thing, you also beaten. You know, I grew up in an era where kids still got spanked and got an ass whipping if they did something wrong. So, anyway, I'm chasing Carl around the school, so I can't catch him, he's pretty fast. And finally, I go down the staircase and I see him getting a drink. I don't know if you've ever went to public school, but they got these long porcelain trays for the water fountains. You know, where like the sink, it's like a sink for the water fountains, and it's, you know, it's long, white, probably about 5-6 feet long, and there's 3 water fountains in it, and he's drinking water in the middle of the fountain. So he doesn't hear me. I go through the back in, you know, I remember the doors, you used to push them, and they would go both ways, and they didn't have like a little lock mechanism, so you didn't hear anything click or nothing. So I moved through there real silently. I crept up behind him, and I grabbed him by his shoulder and his hair, and I started smacking his head off the water fountain. And I did that until his body went limp and fell on the floor. Well, right after I did that, I went back up to class. And as soon as I got back to class, they found out what I did to him. They found him laying on the floor. They came and got me. They brought me right to the principal's office. You know, I couldn't go anywhere else except for sit in the chair right next to the principal. The principal stayed right there until my parents came and got me. And that was the start of me going to special ed. Special ed is for any of you that don't know, is special education for kids that just have problems like sitting down, they can't pay attention, they have behavioral problems, right? I really didn't have a behavioral problem at that time, but they looked at it that way. They didn't know what happened. They just saw me running around cursing the teachers. And then they found this kid all bloody on the floor, you know, down in the cafeteria area. And, you know, they called an ambulance. That kid, I ended up breaking that kid's face pretty good. And that was the start of me going to special ed. From right there, like, yo, I was on the next school bus going down to Chinatown, Smith Projects, PS 126. And that was, it was a regular public school, but they had special ed on the second floor. And so I went there, and I winded up bumping into some kids that I knew from my neighborhood, stuff like that. Nobody, you know, Dave Burdick, my man Dave Burdick. And then I went to school with this other kid named Billy Boland. He was the son of a Coast Guard chief, like a top Coast Guard guy. And that's another story I'll tell you about me going out to the Coast Guard island. I winded up going to school there, and there was this a principal there named Mr. Needleman, and he used to come in when you weren't behaving and try to get you back in line and stuff like that. So I got into it with him one day, and I cursed him out. He wound up pinning me to the floor. I kicked him in his shin. He pinned me down pretty good. I spit in his face. I tried to punch him a few times before that happened, and I wasn't successful. But anyway, this led me to being taken out of that school. I went to that school for about 4 or 5 months, and it was cool because I used to go to school down in Chinatown. You know, Smith Projects is right next to the Brooklyn Bridge, and it's just a step away from Chinatown, basically. I used to get my fireworks down there. That's when I learned about fireworks down on Mott Street. You know, pretty cool down there. So I get into a fight with this Mr. Needleman guy. I get kicked out of that school, and then they send me to what they call a 600 school. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I feel like they should have just sent me to this school to begin with, because it was up in my neighborhood. It's on 88th Street between Lexington and Park. It's called Robert F. Kennedy, PS 169, public school. It's a 100% special ed school, and on the top floor they got like special needs kids, like kids that are in wheelchairs and wear helmets in the bus because they bang their head off the window and shit like that. I mean, I'm not making fun of them, but you know, there's the type of kids that were on the top floor, you know. And believe it or not, I got to that school and I did good. I did really good. You know, it was like a trade school for grade schoolers. They had jewelry class, they had wood shop class, they had ceramics class, they had, what else did they have? I made a bunch of stuff in there. Yeah, jewelry, ceramics, woodworking. And they had gym. It was weird because it was like I had periods, different periods for different classes throughout the day. It was ran like almost like a high school trade school, and it worked. It kept me occupied, kept me up, from running around out of my seat. It kept me attentive and looking at what was going on. But I had fun, making jewelry for my mom out of copper and brass, stainless steel. I used to polish it, set stones in it. I learned how to set stones. Isn't that crazy? I learned how to set stones at like 12 years old or something like that. 11, 12 years old. I'm learning this stuff. And so from there, I ended up graduating out of there, and I went to Wagner Junior High School. It's in 76th Street between 3rd and 2nd in Manhattan. And it's funny, man. Oh yeah, something. I forgot about that. The first, almost the whole year, I went to that school down in Chinatown. I cut school for almost the whole year. And then I went to school and I got into a fight with Mr. Needleman. That's how I got kicked out of there. It was crazy. I used to throw shit off my roof. I used to fucking order shit on credit cards. I used to do all kinds of weird shit as a kid, I used to fill up garbage bags filled with water and then drop them off my roof. I lived in a 5-story brownstone walk-up, Ain't nothing like seeing a garbage bag filled with water bust onto someone's head. It's funny. Anyway, I guess I'm kind of ill for thinking that's funny, but hey, it's what I did as a kid. I had fun, And anyway, I graduated out of PS 169 on that trade school, grade school, and I go to Wagner, and I go, I come, I cut, I don't cut. I'm going to school half the time. I get into a fight with the Spanish teacher, didn't want to teach me Spanish. I couldn't understand what she was teaching or how she was teaching. And I would tell her that I just don't understand what you're trying to, convey to me. And can you explain it to me a little different? And she thought I was making fun of her and fucking kicked me out of the class. Wound up cutting school because of that a lot. There was this guy named Mr. Witchick. He was the dean. He knew what kind of background I had, and he never really pressured me. There was other kids, they'd send them to the dean's office, he'd sit there squirting them with plant spray and fucking sending them, to do errands for him, basically treating them like trash, But me, I used to throw a rock at his window, and they'd have one of those kids come down and let me in. I'd come up, fill out my own ID card. It was crazy. But so my mother got sick. I know I talked about this in another video, my mom dying and stuff. This is at the point where my mom got sick, and she was in the hospital and stuff. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna do good. I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna show my mom, and she'll get better. And this is what I was thinking to myself. That's when the cop from the school decided he wanted to search me for whatever reason. I don't know. He pulled me in at lunchtime. I was sitting outside the main door of the school eating lunch. I had just went to school for the whole week. And I made a promise to myself to go to school, and this guy pulls me inside. He pulls me inside. I'm like, what's up? He pulls my pizza out of my hand, throws it on the floor, brings me inside. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Yo, I'm having lunch. Why are you bothering me? He says, come inside. He brings me inside, and then he tries to turn me around and throw me up against the wall. And I'm like, what are you doing? I kept turning back around, yo, what are you doing? Why are you... what are you doing this for? And he put his hands on both of my shoulders. He said, Sammy, it's going to hurt me a lot more than it's going to hurt you. And he tried to kick me in the balls. He tried to knee me in the balls. I moved, and he didn't kick me. And I had construction boots on at the time. I hoofed him right in the fucking shin. He grabbed me, and he started hopping up and down. He pulled me over to the auditorium, dragged me in the auditorium, and then handcuffed me to the bench in the auditorium. Man, and that was my beginning of me getting locked up. I already had a bunch of cases open too. I had like a bunch of things that I got caught for in the past month or two. I had like 7 open cases. So I go downtown. This is my start of going to the DFY facilities. You know? That's where it all got like pretty hairy for me. You know? I told some stories about me going to the juvenile centers upstate. You know? Berkshire Farms wasn't bad, it did good for me. First one, Lincoln Hall, sucked. It was no good. Kids were out of control. They didn't know how to fucking, you know, take care of the kids the right way up there. I don't know, man. I feel like I got this. I lost out in life at Lincoln Hall. But Berkshire Industrial Farms actually made something of myself. I learned some stuff, learned some horticulture. Did some more, did my 8th year of school there. You know, I got some stuff done while I was there. And let me cut this for right now. I'm gonna do a part 2 to this. Tell you about what happened to me when I got brought down to court. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you soon. Press like, subscribe. I hope to see you back here. Load up a comment. Ask me some questions. Okay. Thank you.